So here it is, the car we've been waiting for quite a long time actually, the Tesla Model 3. It was first unveiled almost 3 years ago, and although there have been various teething problems and production bottlenecks along the way, the car has actually been on sale for about 18 months now over in the States. It's only now though that the first cars are finally arriving in Europe. At the moment it's just left-hand drive models, which is why we're out in Madrid today, but right-hand drive cars are expected to appear in the UK before the end of 2019. Now, some of you Tesla fans will doubtless know plenty about this car already, like my cameraman for today, Dan, who actually has a deposit down on one of these and is so excited to be filming it today that he's wearing his Model 3 t-shirt. Let me just take a quick video on my phone of that for you. But for those of you who aren't that clued up about the Model 3, what exactly is it? Well, it's an electric car. Tesla doesn't do petrols, diesels, or even hybrids, and it's the company's entry-level model, so it sits below the Model X SUV and the Model S, which is a fairly big luxury saloon. It's about the same size as the BMW 3 Series, and Tesla quotes a maximum range of up to 310 miles between charges. We'll talk about that a little bit more in detail later on. As for how much it will cost you in the UK, well, Tesla is still being a bit cagey about that. But if you convert the cost from euros, you're looking at roughly £50,000 for the all-wheel drive long-range model, rising to about £60,000 for the performance version that we've got here today. In other words, it's priced roughly somewhere between a Kia e-Niro and a Jaguar I-Pace. Now, we did get a brief go in the Model 3 out in San Francisco last year, but this time we have the best part of 2 days to really get to know the car properly. So we've put together a bit of a plan. Today we'll be heading out of Madrid and a couple of hours north to the city of Burgos. On the motorway up there, we'll try out some of the Autopilot autonomous driving tech, and we'll see what the Model 3 is like as a high-speed cruiser. When we get to our hotel, which I'm reliably informed has a supercharger on site, which is one of Tesla's own really quick charging points, we'll have a proper look around the Model 3 and a good play with its enormous touchscreen infotainment system. Then tomorrow we'll head out into the countryside to find out what the Model 3 is like to drive on some twisty mountain roads. And then finally, we'll be finding out roughly how many miles you can expect from a full charge in the real world. But before we head off, it's worth me mentioning that although you probably know us best for our car reviews, we've been doing them for more than 40 years now. These days, we can also help you buy and potentially save you quite a lot of money in the process. So if you are in the market for any new car, make sure you head over to our website, whatcar.com, or click the link up there in the top right to find out how much you could save. Okay, so we're on the motorway and we're going to try out some of the Autopilot features. Firstly, you've got adaptive cruise control. To activate that, what you do is you pull once on this stalk here on the right-hand side of the steering wheel. Now, that will set you to the speed limit of the road, and it will automatically maintain a set distance from the car in front by accelerating and braking accordingly. Now, you can change that distance if you'd rather be a bit further away from the car in front, then you just move this dial backwards, and if you knock it to the right, then that brings you up closer to the car in front. Now, on top of that, you've also got something called auto steer. As the name would suggest, this is a function that really takes care of the steering for you, as well as the cruise control. Now, to activate that, you double tap on the stalk, and in the most part, it actually works really well. It steers you in the center of the lane. It does so smoothly, so you're not bouncing off one side of the lane and then the other. The only time that it can get a little bit confused if there are some quite severe corners on the motorway, and what it will do then is it will warn you before disconnecting. And on top of that, you must keep your hands on the steering wheel at all times, because if it senses you haven't after a short period of time, then it deactivates the system as well. But there's more, because if you've got auto steer enabled, you can actually perform a lane change as well. What you do to do that is you just indicate, and the car will check there's nothing around before steering you out into the next lane and turning the indicator off. And if you want to go back in the lane again, all you do is you indicate back the other way. It checks there's nothing that's come along on the inside, and then it steers you over to that lane as well. So it's pretty clever, and actually in the US, the Autopilot system will work with the navigation system. So you can effectively just plug in the destination and the car will pretty much take care of the driving for you while you're on the motorway. It will take you off at the junction it thinks you need to come off at, and then hand things back over to you. but at the moment there's no word on when or if at all this will be available in Europe. In other respects on the motorway, the Model 3 is very good as well. It feels really stable at speed, and the steering, when you are choosing to steer it yourself that is nicely weighted and it's very precise, so it allows you to place the car exactly where you want it in your lane. The one downside is that this is not the quietest cruiser in the world. There's quite a lot of wind noise from around these frameless doors here, and there's quite a lot of road roar as well, which is no doubt partly caused by the 20-inch wheels that come as standard on this performance model. Cheaper versions that come on 18 and 19-inch wheels will no doubt be quite a bit better in that respect. Now there's one more thing that's a complete gimmick really. It's called Rainbow Road. Now to activate that, you tap the stalk 4 times, and the road goes rainbow coloured and it plays a tune for you while it's activating auto steer. So we've arrived at our hotel and we found the Tesla Superchargers, but these aren't just any old Superchargers, they are Model 3 ready. Now that's because the usual Tesla connector, which is one of these, and you'd use that to charge a Model S or a Model X, doesn't work with the Model 3. So you have to use one of these, which is called a CCS connector. This is a bit of a pain because it means that until Tesla updates all of its Superchargers, some aren't compatible with the Model 3 at all. On the plus side, the car does know which locations are and aren't Model 3 ready, so it isn't as though you're going to have to take any gambles. Plus, the Model 3 can charge at the same speed as other Teslas, around 120 kilowatts, which is much, much faster than a Jaguar I-Pace or a Kia e-Niro. The new CCS connector also means you can charge reasonably briskly at about 50 kilowatts at some regular public charging points that would previously have been incompatible with Tesla models. And of course, you can still use a regular Type 2 connector to charge your Model 3 at home. So what about the rest of the car? Well, let's start with how you get into it, because there's no conventional key. You just get one of these, a smart card, and you touch it on the side pillar here and the doors unlock. And if you're thinking it's a bit rubbish that there's no keyless entry in a car costing this much money, then fear not, because as long as you're logged into the smartphone app that Tesla provides on your phone, then the doors will automatically unlock when you approach the car. The door handles are flush with the bodywork just like they are in a Model S, but here they don't automatically pop out for you to grab, you have to push here. To get out again, you just press this button, although there is an emergency release in the unlikely event you get stuck inside the car without power. Now, driving positions tend to be quite personal things. They work for some people and not quite so well for others. But most of the fundamentals are really good here. There is a lot of adjustment in the seat, and once you've finally figured out how to do it, in the steering wheel as well. Now the only downside really is that the driver's seat, it doesn't have a great deal of support, and even with the adjustable lumbar support in its most extreme setting, I did still get a bit of backache on the 2-hour journey up here. Now we could spend more than an hour talking you through the finer detail of this touchscreen, so we'll just run through the basics. The screen measures 15 inches across, so it's slightly smaller than what you'll find in a Model S or a Model X, and it's also in landscape orientation rather than the portrait layout that Tesla usually favours. But the basic interface is very similar. Right, let's start with this icon here, which brings up a lot of the car's functions. You can adjust the mirrors and the steering wheel. We talked about that a minute ago. Here you've got the light controls. This is the lock, so that's where you set up your phone to unlock the doors automatically, and you can also set child locks and things like that. This just allows you to play about with the display, the brightness. These are driving modes, so you can adjust the aggressiveness, acceleration, you can change the steering weight, and you can play about with the regenerative braking. This is the autopilot stuff, and that is what we talked about on the way up here. You can play about with those settings. This is sat nav, so you can do things like avoiding toll roads, and here is safety and security, so you can set speed limits and you can also turn off the alarm. Now finally, you'll see here, this is how you open the glove box. But you can also open the bonnet, the boot and the charge port flap from the touchscreen as well. So this menu here, as you probably guessed, is the music side of things, you've got various options along the bottom there. This one here brings up a lot of the car's apps. You can see your energy consumption over a period of time, for example, and you can also see all the charging information. So you can set the charging limit to preserve the life of the battery. You can change the current at which the battery is charging. You can schedule charging, and you can also see how much you're being charged. You press this icon here, you get a reversing camera, and you can keep that on at any speed you like, unlike pretty much every other car on sale, which will automatically switch the camera off when you go above cruising speeds. If you swipe left, you get trip information. Here is what we did earlier. And finally, there is the wiper switch. And the aircon is also rather fancy because there are no adjustable vents on the dashboard there. You can adjust the airflow by playing around with the touchscreen here. Remember we showed you that silly rainbow road function on the way up here? Well, that's a fun feature that Tesla calls an Easter egg, and there are a few more. You can turn your Model 3 into Santa's sleigh, change the sat-nav maps to the surface of Mars, turn the screen into a giant drawing pad, play some classic Atari games, turn up the heat with romance mode, or even try to embarrass your passengers with some fart noises. The touchscreen even displays the speedo and all the other bits of info that you'd usually expect to find on a screen behind the steering wheel. And that's helped create this incredibly clean looking dashboard with no buttons, switches or dials on it at all. Interior quality isn't going to worry the likes of Audi, but it's certainly something Tesla has improved on a lot over the years, and nice touches like this ceramic face on the dashboard help make the Model 3 feel reasonably premium inside. The Model 3 also feels really light and airy in the front, and there's a huge amount of storage space dotted around the interior. Things aren't bad in the back, but I'm 6 foot and I'm sitting behind my imaginary self here. I don't have a huge amount of knee room. I can't really move my feet at all. But the fact there's no hump in the floor like you'd usually expect to find in a petrol or diesel car should make it pretty easy to fit 3 people across here. Now the Model 3 is a saloon, so the boot opening isn't as big as a Jaguar I-Pace is, but there is loads of room for luggage in there, and there's actually a load more if you lift up the boot floor there. There's even space for a couple of soft bags under the bonnet. Right now it's our second day with the Model 3 and we're heading out into the mountains to find some good driving roads. This is the performance version after all, which has stiffer sport suspension and really sticky Michelin tyres to help it go around corners better. And compared with other electric cars, even the Jaguar I-Pace for example, it handles really quite well. I mean, it is obviously quite a heavy car still. There are a lot of batteries it needs to carry around, so it doesn't turn into corners quite like an Alfa Giulia Quadrifoglio, for example. But once you're settled into a corner, you can carry a surprising amount of speed through it and out the other side again. And it steers surprisingly well too. It's something Tesla has worked really hard on since the early days of the Model S. We reckon it's something the company's nailed better than any other electric manufacturer to date. Most impressive of all though is undoubtedly the acceleration. Even the regular long-range model can do 0-60 in 4.5 seconds, whereas this performance version that I'm driving today can do that in a scarcely believable 3.3 seconds. Now that's quicker than a Porsche 911, let alone a Jaguar I-Pace. Now the other thing I really like about the Model 3 are the brakes. The regenerative side of things is taken care of when you lift off the accelerator, so the effect doesn't increase unpredictably when you press the brake pedal like it does in many electric cars. Now that not only makes it easier to slow down smoothly, it just generally makes the car more enjoyable to drive. As for the ride, well, this performance version is undoubtedly quite firm, and that's hardly surprising when you consider it has stiffer sport suspension and massive 20-inch alloys. We'd still say it's no firmer than M Sport versions of the latest BMW 3 Series, for example, but there's no doubt if comfort is a priority, we would recommend you look at the regular long-range model. Now, before we give the car back to Tesla, there's one last thing we need to do, and that's to find out roughly how many miles you can expect from a full charge. Tesla quotes a range of 310 miles based on an official government test carried out over in the US. But the European WLTP figures have just been published, and they say the performance version that we're driving here can do 330 miles while the less powerful regular long-range model can manage 338 miles on a charge. So we're charging the car back up again, and then we're going to drive it relatively gently all the way back to Madrid, which is about 150 miles away, to see how much charge we use up. A bit of maths, and that should give you a rough idea of the mileage you can expect in the real world, although we will of course be putting the Model 3 through our much more scientific real range tests when we get the car back in the UK. To find out more about our real range tests, including how many miles other electric cars can manage on a full charge, just click the link up there in the top right. Okay, so we're coming towards Madrid now. We've done around about 130 miles and the car is saying we've used up 55% of the battery. So assuming that's all correct, that gives us a potential maximum range of around about 235 miles, which is very good when you consider that pretty much the whole way we've been doing 70 miles an hour on quite a hilly motorway. We reckon if you're driving on slower roads, you should be able to get well over 250 miles. And as well as having a long range, the Model 3 is actually a really good car in other respects. It's fun to drive, it's packed full of tech, it's ridiculously fast, and it's even reasonably practical. The problem is we don't know how much it will cost in the UK yet, and until we do, it's impossible to say where the Model 3 will rank in our electric car league table. Tesla also needs to get a bit of a move on with deliveries in the UK because there are plenty of other electric cars on the horizon from more established manufacturers that could potentially snap up would-be Model 3 buyers who just can't be bothered to wait any longer. But hopefully that won't happen because, assuming the prices aren't too optimistic, this is a car that really does deserve to succeed. Watch out for our full UK video review of the Model 3 in the coming months, and in the meantime, head over to whatcar.com to read our full written review of the car. Thanks for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, give us a like and hit the subscribe button so that we can let you know about future content as soon as it's published.